Welcome back to the next video on math formulas. In this video, we're going to be talking about count A, count blank, and average A formulas. Let's get started. Now, these are not the most commonly used formulas, but when they are used, they tend to be useful when combining formulas together, and this count A is necessary. You're trying to count something to then multiply it against another value or something, or divide it by something. So the count A is, there's something that you need to pay attention to, is that with count A, it counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. So the difference between this and, let me backspace the A, and count is that count goes ahead and counts the number of cells in a range that contain numbers, and it only counts if it contains numbers. Therefore, if I use this formula and select the product description column and close up the parentheses, it's going to return 0 because the product description has no numbers. But if we use the count A formula, then we get the count of that many rows, 6. You get this piece of data, and then you may multiply it against some other amount based on whatever you're trying to use this 6 for, or this counting function for. Let's move on to the count blank formula, which goes ahead and, as you guessed it, it just counts the blank cells that are in a list. So these are product descriptions, and they're all filled out, so I should get 0, which I do. But if I delete one, there's one blank in this column. Now, if I put a space in there, I just put one space, so 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, and hit enter, then I'm back to 0. So you got to be careful if there's actually something here. It's no longer a blank cell. So then I can press delete, and that goes away. So that there's no spaces anymore here. Now, I use this to count basically, hey, where in my database am I missing product descriptions? And I can see easily just by doing this formula that, hey, I'm missing one product description. And I could do maybe a formula and say, well, what's the count of how many rows do I have here in my database? And I have 6 rows, and there's one blank. Therefore, how many are missing? I could say 1 divided by 6, and that gives me 17%. So 17% are missing. The other 83% are there. So that would be a good, useful tool of using the count blank function. Now, the last formula we're going to go over is this average A formula. And before we get into that, let's go over the average formula one more time. And that tells us that it's going to return the average of the arguments, which can be numbers, names, arrays, and references that contain numbers. So that's what an average is. But if we stick an A at the end, it changes the formula to then include text and false answers, or false cells, and it will evaluate that as a 0 value. Otherwise, if it has true, it's going to evaluate it as 1, and then it can take, again, the same type of arguments as the average formula. So if we put an average A formula and grab the range of product descriptions and then close out the formula, it's going to return 0 because all of this is text, and text, it said, returns as 0. Now, if we take this blank and put in here false, false will then also return as 0. So this would make sense too, that it's showing 0. But what if we switch it with true? So true should actually evaluate as 1. So 1 divided by 6 possible would be figuring out an average, gives us 17%. We basically did that math just a second ago with having one blank divided by 6. So that's what the average A formula does. Again, these formulas are not commonly used, but they're good to understand that they are out there and can be used in combination with other formulas.